nice milled pattern under the white coated masonite. This is clamped down over the brass sheet to make the curves with holding tabs that will get cut away. So what are these milled things? They are for building a tricky part. This is the curved segment of the coin ramp. There are two of them. And why is it so tricky? Well, I'm here to show you. It has to be modeled in such a way, it has to be made in such a way that it starts horizontally, it ends horizontally, as you can see there, and it goes down at a slope that's constant throughout the whole curve. And it's a continuation of the inlet ramp and the main down ramp. I make it in SolidWorks. I modeled it. Not that it helps a lot, but you make two sketches, the beginning sketch, the end sketch. The end sketch is 0.75 down and about the radius of the thing or the distance you want it. Then you build a guide curve with using a 3D sketch. And then you select loft. You're going to make a loft. You don't build anything yet on those two sketches. They're open, but now you select them where it's asking for profile, the beginning and the end, and you can see it starts to model it in. It previews it straight across. Then you go to the next box and you select the guide curve. Once you do that, it follows that guide curve and you get a nice 3D model that's kind of following that weird pattern that you made. So what I've done was I take the curve that I want and I make a pattern of that so that I can mill out the flat brass pieces. And that's what I'm doing there. I mill them out, clamp it down with that masonite. And then cut those tabs off with the tin snips. And of course this will get finished a little better as I go. The idea is that you make nice smooth curves. You can file those, cut them to length, and so on. But that's only the starting point. Now I'm soldering that curve against a curved side piece or the vertical rails of what's going to end up being a channel. And you start with, I'm using a soldering gun to get some tacks placed, and then use the torch to get the solder to flow through that whole joint. You cut off the ends with the tin snips as much as you can, and then we'll draw a line along that edge, and I'll use a Dremel tool, the cutoff wheel, to cut them down to size. So there I'm using that. I've already drawn the line and I'm using the cutoff wheel to roughly cut it. There, it got hot, so I dropped it. When you get both sides cut, you can put it on the sanding disc, do a little filing, clean it up nicely, and you end up with a pretty good part. This will work, and it should look right at home when it has the guide rails on it. In my previous video, I described this thing. It's a coin stop, or a gate. It blocks people from putting in more coins when there's already a quarter in the machine. You'd think when the machine is running that people wouldn't say, let's put more money in and see what happens. But that's what they do. It's going to be solenoid actuated, and it has to swing into position after a quarter goes in. It needs to be tight in order to make it tamper-proof. Now, this is a little bit of how I made it. I obviously modeled the brass block, and I made the block first, milled that out, drilled out the holes. This is the quick montage of assembly for that thing. I kept testing it as I went and making sure the wire had clearance, grind it down a little bit here, drill it out a little bit there, and so on. It seems to be working nice and smooth now. It's spring-loaded, and it's going to be actuated by a wire that goes down to the solenoid. There'll just be this thin wire running all the way down to beneath the table, like I described before. That's it. The end of this video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all learned something. If you ever want to make one of these yourself, well, I'm there to support you. And so I'll sign off. Thank you, and goodbye.